Hello my friends, and welcome to a very special first look at Decisive Campaign's Ardennes Offensive. So, those of you who are tactical gamers like me, tactical strategy gamers, kind of people who play Panzer Corps 2 and Gladius and Fantasy General 2 and all those kind of games, you may be familiar with or aware of Wargaming. Now, Wargaming is mostly the kind of games that Slytherin produces or makes, and these are the games that are incredibly detailed kind of war simulators, almost impenetrably brain-meltingly detailed games that, in some cases, for example, you've got Gary Grigsby's War in the East 2, and then you have Command, which is so detailed and such a war simulator that it's actually used by real-world militaries to actually simulate potential war scenarios that they might actually potentially have to fight. Now, those of you who have been paying attention to Slytherin's official stream will have seen me play this a little bit. It's not out until the 14th of this month of November. Those of you who are watching this in the distant future, it's not out yet as of the time of the release of this video and won't be for another 10 days, but I have the opportunity here to show you guys this game. And what makes this game special, and we'll get into it. I'll just pick a scenario and we'll get going. What makes this game special is it sits between the impenetrably complicated wargaming stuff, which for me it's just too detailed to be fun, and tactical games which are much more simplified, are much more, they're much more about just sitting down and making moves quickly. It sits between those two things in a sort of happy middle ground, and I actually think it's quite cool. So let's get started and I will explain. For those of you who have played Shadow Empire will be immediately familiar with how this game looks because it's using the same engine, quite obviously so. So yeah, those of you familiar with Wargaming will be familiar with how, or you would probably be familiar with a game that looks sort of like this. You can actually put the old NATO counters on. So you'd probably be familiar with a game that looks like this with loads of NATO counters and symbols and all the rest of it. Very, very complicated stuff. But where this sort of game sits comfortably in the middle ground is that it has a whole logistics system and level of detail underneath how it works, but you can just sort of still play it like it's a tactical game, which is the thing that I really like about it. So just to give you a detail here, so here each of these units here can see certain tiles based on their reconnaissance values and so on. But it is made simple just with the eye system. So you see here the green eye means that the unit has got perfect sight on a tile. Yellow means the sight level is decent. Blue means it's, reduced. And red means almost no sight. And then obviously no eye means it can't see at all. And there's a lot of detail behind how that works, and there's a lot of ways to interact with that. But you don't have to just make good moves. So for example, we want to attack this roadblock here. At the moment we have yellow yellow level of sight on this tile. So what we can do is, for example, if I take this infantry unit here. Now, based on all the available information, if I attack, I should win pretty solidly. But let's say that I'm not comfortable with my my level of information on this tile. Now, according to the hex stats monitor, I've got 75% effective recon on this turn. So that's actually really good. But you have choices, so you can actually probe a tile. If you have no idea what's in a tile, if there's like a question mark there, you can probe a tile and take very little damage, and spend action points, and in exchange get information that will lead to a better attack. So, unlike a tactical game where you just have units and you make attacks very quickly, you have different kinds of attacks in this game which can be conducted both at range and regularly. Now, if we conduct the attack at range, you can see here, this is the important modifier, 65% of our shots will be blocked because of intervening cover, terrain, and other issues. You see that there's a river here and bridges, that's why the penalty is so severe. Whereas, of course, if we make the regular attack, we are going to be pushing into the tiles. So you can see here, we're going to lose 21% of our effectiveness due to the river, 37% due to the landscape. So there's a huge number of things in terms of raw detail that affects combat. But you actually don't have to get into all of it if you don't want to, and that's where it bridges the gap between a tactical game and wargaming. In wargaming, you have to care about all of this stuff. If you don't care about all of this stuff, you're going to get wrecked. And in tactical gaming, it doesn't matter. You're just making attacks based on simple comparisons. In this, you can get advantage by understanding the mechanics, but you don't have to understand mechanics to play the game competently. So here, the odds look great, so I'm just going to attack. And you can see here that the enemy took 6 casualties, 1 of 1 known unit here, this is officer I think, 1 of 2 known units of infantry, 2 of 2 known units of bazookamen, and 2 artillery, which we didn't know about, but we destroyed them on the way in. And now he's been pushed out of that tile. Now I can move across. And you can see here, by moving across, I now have green sight on all of these tiles. Because there's no longer, the river is no longer blocking me, it's no longer standing in my way here. Now that I have green sight on this, I can actually open up the exact details of the units. Everything about their stats, how much supply they've got, what their attack values are. They've got trucks, engineers, bazookas, they have 1 jeep. Like, I can know everything about the unit. And if you know everything about the unit, and in this case, the odds are not great. You can see here that these units cannot participate properly, and the reason why, only 12% of the troops can help from this unit, only 3% of the troops can help from this unit. 80% of the troops from this unit can help. That's because of this river is in the way. If you don't like the odds, well, you can do exactly what you did in a tactical game. I'll soften them up with artillery first. So I've got some artillery here in the corner. We have great recon on the tile, so we know we're going to hit hard. You can see here we have a good line of sight on the bonus. We have 25% extra power because we have a good clean shot. We have an extra 64% because of various officers and personnel. Our information state on this unit is incredibly good, so we're gonna really put the hurt in. Alright, so the bombardment went in and they took 8 casualties and 2 trucks, which is almost half the unit destroyed with that artillery bombardment. By the way, this cross here means this bridge has been destroyed. And you can repair bridges. That is actually something that you can do. I can order this unit to attempt to repair the bridge. But it has no engineers in it at all, so that can't be attempted. But it would be something you would be able to do if that unit had engineers in it. Now that I've bombarded these guys, you can see here the odds now are 7-1 that I would win this fight. This unit can participate fully. It's paratroopers, so I guess they're a pretty skilled infantry unit that can get across the river without too much trouble. And see, this is what's cool about this game, is the detail is there. There's lots of depth to the game. You've got cards that you can play, just like Shadow Empire. You have a whole logistics system, just like Shadow Empire. I only have 6 political points at the start of this mission, so there isn't much that I can do. I can summon an extra unit here. But the depth of the game doesn't, completely control whether you'll succeed or not. You can just play this like a tactical game and do well. So I'll just move my tank here and just move my tank straight into these retreating infantry unit. Having wrecked that unit, we have discovered there's an anti-tank unit nearby somewhere supporting them. Okay, so we've got an enemy supply depot up there. This is my HQ unit, and you can see here we have it's mostly just staff. But we also have SS embedded into this, along with a fair bit of heavily mechanized transport. So this unit can fight, but it's not ideal that it does. It's got some anti-air in it. We can push it up into the city where it can direct our support from there. So you can see here now, with this infantry unit on the high ground and this tank here, there are enough eyes on this tile to actually work out that there's something in this field hiding. But we don't know what it is. We have a recon of 59 and the unit is well hidden. It has 44 hide points. So if you minus those two figures from each other, you're left with 15 points of recon, which is quite low. It's enough to know that there's something there, but it's not enough to know anything about it. So we could, if I can get there with enough points left over. There we go, yeah, I've got 3 AP left. This is where things like the probe come in handy. We don't know anything about this unit. There is enthusiasm on the odds here, but that's because we don't know anything about the unit, so they're just thinking it's going to be an easy ride. But we can do a probe. Okay, I lost 3 transports, but that's it. Or three infantry fighting vehicles. Now there we go. Having probed the unit, we can now see that it's actually an anti-tank, which is well dug in. Now, if we had blundered into that with our tank, we would have been devastated. So you have a sort of extra level of depth of detail to the game in that you can actually make probes on units. You can actually You don't. It's not just a case of, you know, just attacking, which is what you do in tactical games usually. Is you have a unit and you select a target for each turn. That's it. But if you play that way, then you can still do well. You don't have to fully understand all of the number crunching behind the game to actually just play it. But as you get into it, you might consider wanting to get into the details. Oh, I got intercepted, but it didn't do anything. The interception shot was not that good. So here we can see that there's obviously units in that tile, but I cannot see what they are. You can see here that this artillery actually has a shot. If we click on this artillery, we can see 10.5 centimeter LEF 18. Has an effective range of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so this anti-tank unit is within our effective range, and we can just bring the noise. Okay, now what's interesting here is I didn't manage to destroy any of the entrenched units, but they're supply trucks. And that can be very powerful in its own right, because if you break all their trucks, their supplies will be impacted. In fact, you can actually see here that this unit has got a supply issue already. This red marker, instead of it being white, indicates that this unit should have a supply problem now, and that's probably because I just blew away 3 trucks worth of supplies without actually destroying any units. Let's just close in here. Okay, I now have enough reconnaissance on this unit to see what it is. It's infantry, rather obviously engineers, and they do have some anti-tank support as well. Okay. Yeah, so what I think, you know, I already think the game is great, by the way, in case that wasn't obvious. If this feels a little bit like a sales pitch, it's because I really like Shadow Empire, and this is World War II Shadow Empire in a way, without the building. But what I particularly like about the game is the complexity is there of a war game, which I've always thought is cool, but just too much, too brain-meltingly involved for me. But you can just play this game like it's a tactical game, and that's okay. You can play it like it's a tactical game, and you're not going to particularly be penalized for it. So here I've got good reconnaissance on this unit, at least I think I do, before I start dropping artillery on this. Uh, 61 versus 34, okay, not the best recon, decent, 30-ish. You can see here, look, based on what I know, this fight would go badly for me, especially since I'd have to go across a river. But I can. Oh, is it? He smashed the bridge, hasn't he? The bridge has been destroyed as well, which is not helpful, not conducive to getting across yet. But this unit does have engineers, so it could repair the bridge. It would just take time. But yeah, we can just play it like a tactical game. We don't have to mull over the details if we don't want to. We can just select our artillery here. bring the noise. Okay, and we have softened up the defenders. And you can see here that's actually made a pretty solid difference. We now have a chance to clean these guys out, although it would be an exchange. Now we can decide whether or not we think that that's worth doing, or we can do a ranged attack. So we can actually snipe at this tile without actually doing a full assault. And our anti-tank support could potentially join in here. A number of units do not have a good line of sight on the target. But you see here we've got 81mm mortars that have no problem with LOS, so they'll work at full effectiveness. The 8.8mm flak has got terrible sighting on the target, which is mostly small infantry in the town. So we got minus 91% effectiveness, but we can just soften this tile. Okay, we didn't get much done there, unfortunately. And then I'm just going to skip turn here so that we can try it. We can push again. The AI is actually very competent, so you can't really afford to waste turns and time. But I'm doing it here just to show you guys what the game is like. Now you can see here, look, the AI is already moving in behind me to try and cut me off. Okay, so we're gonna push in this time. We'll hit them with another artillery bombardment to begin with. Okay, we're now actually striking targets here. And now we should be able to push across. It's still going to be rough, but there's a lot less of them now. Okay, so this unit retreated, but this one held. We took some reasonably heavy losses, but so did they. Okay. We've lost information on this unit here. We got intercepted, but we're on the cliff. We're on the mountain here, so it wasn't effective. Let's go. So you can just play it like a tactical game if you want. You don't have to worry too much about the extreme detail. If you don't want to, you can just make competent moves. Like this retreating infantry unit, of course we can just roll over it with our tanks because there's nothing left of it. Okay, there we go. They capitulated. So having been pushed out of this tile and then being chased by tanks, they've just surrendered. So you can make some very decisive plays. You don't have to mull over every turn for an hour to get the to play competently. But you can do that if you want. you can mull over every detail. So there's a lot of depth, and there's a lot of ways of getting advantage out of the depth. But you don't have to drown in the pool, as it were, to learn to swim. And that's what I really like about this game. So anyway, it's not out yet. It will be out in 10 days, and I think it will just be available on Matrix Store early on. But the other games have come to Steam, so I'm going to presume that it's going to come to Steam at some point as well, or it might even come to Steam at the same time. I'm just guessing here. I actually have no clue. But yeah, I've been playing this and I've been really enjoying it. It's definitely very interesting in that it's a step up from tactical games like Panzer Corps 2. Definitely in terms of detail, in terms of, you know, cards you can play, and you've got things like orders of battle, and, you know, you have to worry about supplies and morale and reconnaissance and terrain and all that kind of stuff. Everything is calculated. But it's not like a you know, a full-on war game where you have to actually plan out everything and standing orders and you know, which units are getting what supplies and all that kind of stuff every turn. Like, a lot of that is automatic and handled very well by the actual game itself. So you don't have to go into all that detail. You're not going to be spending, or at least you know, I hope not. You're not going to be spending 2 or 3 hours to just complete your first turn because you got lost in the you know, lost in the numbers, as it were, or lost in understanding the numbers and doing the standing orders and all this kind of thing. Like, you can see here, like, this stuff is familiar to wargamers everywhere. Where, you know, we've got set here that if this unit strength drops below 100%, you know, please send replacements from the HQ. Please send 100% of requested supplies. You know, please use so much ammunition when intercepting. Please retreat at a certain level, blah, blah, blah. And these things can all be edited. So there is that level of detail can be fiddled with. You can even disband units to return them to the HQ so that what's left of a unit can be added to other units that, you know, can be brought back up to full strength, all that kind of stuff. You can go down that rabbit hole, but you don't have to. You don't have to go down the rabbit hole to just play the game competently, which is something that you have to do with wargaming. But that level of detail is there. If you really want to get into the game and go down that rabbit hole, you can do. So anyway, that is it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this little more of an explanation of the game, as well as a preview. I don't know if we'll be seeing more of this on my channel in the very near future, but it is certainly something that I will play in my own personal time. So it's definitely on my list of things to maybe put on the channel in the future. It's also one of these games where I am gonna make myself look like a bad player because I personally struggle to find the motivation to get into the extremely detailed games, and that's why I haven't covered many war games. But I think that this game is just tactical enough to actually be really enjoyable to a tactical game player like me, while still having wargaming elements to sort of get into. But anyway, that's my thoughts. Let me know what your thoughts are. As always, I try and reply to all your comments. I hope you enjoyed this preview. It will be out on the 14th, and I will drop you a link to the store where you can get it. I don't know whether it's coming to Steam or not, but it will definitely be on the Matrix store at the very least if you're interested in the game. And that's it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this first look, and I will see you guys next time.